Good evening, everyone. Can you see my screen? Guys, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what we are discussing in the last session, what we discussed in the last session. Please respond. In the last,
Name services POD.
yeah, in the last session, we started our discussion related to pod and services. And we have seen how to create a pod and how to create a service also. What is the relation between the pod and service also? We discussed. Pod is the smallest building block that we can execute in the Kubernetes cluster. So if you want to deploy your container, Kubernetes is not going to manage the containers directly. In Kubernetes, to manage the containers, we need to go for pod concept. So pod we can create in two ways. One is by using interactive approach by using a command. Second one is by using declarative approach. So in the last session, I have shown you how to create the pod by using declarative approach, API version, kind, metadata, spec. If you go for Kubernetes, we are going to write manifest files. To do our containers deployment in the Kubernetes, we will use a manifest file. The manifest files are YML files in the Kubernetes. In the manifest file, we are going to have this configuration, API version, kind, metadata, spec. Kind will API version represents which version you want to use for this. Kind represents what kind of a manifest file it is. Metadata, data about the data, like labels, selectors, we are going to configure as metadata. Spec means what this file is going to do. That specification of that file we are going to configure. All right. So yesterday we have taken some configuration for pod creation and we are able to create the pod. So once you have created this YML, how to send the request for the Kubernetes to create the pod? By using kubectl apply command. By using kubectl apply command, we are able to create the pod. Once the pod is created, we can describe the pod and we can see where that pod is getting executed and what is the IP of the pod. For every pod, Kubernetes is going to assign one IP address. Using that IP address, we can access the pod inside the cluster, but not outside. Pod, when the pod execution started, that pod we can access within the cluster by using pod IP. Now, if you want to access the pod outside, then you need to go for Kubernetes service concept. Fine. After that, we discussed about pod lifecycle. So completely it is managing by control plane. We are executing kubectl apply by using the manifest file. Then kubectl is sending a request. API server is going to receive the request. API server will store that application data in the etcd. Scheduler is going to take that. Scheduler is going to schedule that by interacting with the kubelet. Then pod is going to execute. That is the pod lifecycle. But the problem with the pod is ephemeral. That means it is very short-lived object. When the project code is modified, then pod should be recreated. Okay, so when the pods are getting recreated, we cannot use the pod IP to access the application. So that's the reason we are going to use Kubernetes service concept. So what is the main purpose of the Kubernetes service? Kubernetes service is responsible to make our pods discoverable inside and outside of the cluster. What is Kubernetes service? Kubernetes service is responsible to make our pods discoverable or accessible inside and outside of the cluster. Okay, so there are three types of services available in the Kubernetes. One is cluster IP service. Second one is node port service. Third one is load balancer service. Cluster IP means for our application, one virtual IP will be created. So here, for creating a service in the Kubernetes, we are writing a manifest file. In the manifest file, we are specifying kind as a service. Previously, when we are creating a pod, I have specified the kind as a pod. That means it is pod manifest. When I want to create a service in the Kubernetes, in the kind I'm specifying as a service. That means it is a service manifest file. Good. Now, how to send a service request for if you want to submit a pod request or if you want to submit a service request, the command is same. Just the thing is kind is different. Kind is different. Here kind is a service, their kind is pod. kubectl apply, I'm submitting this file. Once you submitted your service, you can see the service details by using SVC. SVC represents a service. If your service is a cluster IP service, then for your service, Kubernetes is providing one virtual IP. Using that virtual IP, you can access your application within the cluster. You can access your application within the cluster. If you want to expose the application outside the cluster, then we have a service called node port service. We have a service called node port service in the Kubernetes. When we go for node port service, that application will be accessible outside the cluster also by using any of the node IP which is belongs to the cluster. So there are three nodes available. One is a control plane, two are the worker nodes. So when you create a service in the Kubernetes cluster by using node port service, Kubernetes will allocate one port number by default for our service, that is called node port. What is the range of the node port? Node port range will be available from 30,000 to 32,767. In between, it is going to take one number and it is going to allocate that number as a node port. Then how to access our application? We can access that application by using our cluster machine IP, any node, node VM IP, node VM IP with a node port and a context path of the application. So that is what we discussed in the last session. Let me connect it to my Kubernetes cluster. My instances are running, guys. This is a master instance. This is a control plane, we can say. Worker node 1, worker node 2. They are up and running now. I have just started, guys. Let me connect to them quickly by using Mobile Extreme and we will perform the operations. Okay. Are you guys able to practice pod creation and service creation, cluster IP, node port IP? Are you able to practice it, guys? Are you feeling Kubernetes is difficult or
Yes,
you
sir,
are
it
able
is.
to understand?
It's a bit difficult, sir.
Bit difficult, huh?
It's difficult and confused.
Bit difficult and confused. Oh, okay.
So actually there is a issue that is coming in between.
क्या issue है?
So issue ये है कि when we are running the command that is kubectl get ports -o wide, then at that time वहाँ पे कोई IP address show नहीं कर रहा है, that is showing none, and in the ready slot it is showing 0-1 instead of 1-1.
I will check those issues. Today I will spend after our class is completed. I will check that. Meanwhile, keep your clusters up and running. Okay. I have connected, guys. I have connected to my Kubernetes cluster. This is my master node and this is my worker node. Yeah, blue, yellow. Good. So this is my master node. So here I connected to master node. I'm using get nodes. So can you see in my cluster, 3 nodes are available. We have configured multi-node Kubernetes cluster for high availability. Multi-node Kubernetes cluster we have configured. Now kubectl get pods. Currently one pod is running. Java web application pod is running. Java web application pod is running. So kubectl get pod -o wide. Yes, I'm able to see the more information about that pod. It is showing that pod IP and node IP is also available. Whenever this is the proof to say that whenever the pod is created, that pod will get a IP. For every pod, one IP will be available. You can do curl using 192.168.1.130:80. So within that we can access. And now it is not accessible because we changed that to the node port service. So now by using the node port we can access it. Now let's go for kubectl get svc. One service is running. What is the name, what is the type of the service we used for our application? Now what is the type of the service I used for my application? Now is it a cluster IP or is it a node port service? It is a node port service. So what is the port number we got? Did I specify the node port for my service? ls-l, check our service file name. ls-l, check our service file name. vi java web app svc.yml. Okay, can you see, did I specify the node port? No. If we don't specify the node port, what is happening? If we don't specify the node port for the ports, Kubernetes is assigning one port or not? Kubernetes is assigning one port, some default port, some random port. It's not a default. Default means it should be same every time. Here it is giving a random port. What is the port it has given for my service now? What is the port it has given for our service now? What is the port it has given for our service now? 32645. 32645. Now I have 3 node cluster. I have given node port. Copy any machine, any node machine 32645:32645 is the port number. Java space java-web-app. This is the IP address of my machine. That is the context path of my machine. Context path of my machine 32645. Let's check it in the security group. Sorry, did I take private IP? Oh, I should take public IP, guys. Sorry, I should take public IP. Public IP colon 32645/Java web app. Am I able to access the application outside the cluster also? Where my application is running? Where my application is running? Application is running inside the pod. Application is running inside a container. Container is running inside the pod. Am I able to access the pod outside the cluster? Yes, I'm able to access the pod outside the cluster also by using service concept. In the Kubernetes, I have created a service. So to create the service in the Kubernetes, I have used one manifest. How this service is understanding that this pod we should expose outside the cluster? What is the relation between this service and this pod? What is the relation between the service and pod? How this service understood this pod should be accessible outside the cluster? Guys, speak out. I want you to speak out. You have the option to unmute your mic and speak out.
By seeing type of
Selector.
service.
By using selector.
Selector.
Okay, labels and selectors are very important when we are working with Kubernetes clusters. I have created a pod manifest. So here if you see, my pod manifest is available. ls-l cat java web app pod YML is available. So what is the label name I have given for this pod manifest? What is the label name I have given for the pod manifest? I have given the label name as a Java web app. Now let me do cat Java web app service.yml. Now what is the selector I have specified? Java web app or not? So this is my pod manifest file. This is my pod manifest file and this is my service manifest file. By using pod manifest we can create the pod. pod we can execute, container will be created within the pod. Okay, within the pod manifest, I have specified which Docker image it has to execute. For which image it has to create the container, already I have specified as part of the pod manifest. Now, if I create the pod, my container will be executed within the pod in one of the worker node. But the problem, pod is ephemeral. It is a short-lived object. Pod will be recreated in the future. When the pod is recreated in the future, pod IP is going to change. And pod is accessible only within the cluster. To expose the pod outside the cluster, we are using a service concept in the Kubernetes. Here, for the pod, I am creating a service. To expose the pod outside the cluster, I am creating a service. For that, I have taken one service manifest file. I have taken one service manifest file. Using this service, I'm exposing the pod outside. So what is the relation between this pod and service? In the pod, I have a label name. That label name I am using as a selector. That label name I am using as a selector. Hey service, you do selection of this pod. You go and select this pod and you expose. The pod services I'm configuring. In the pod service I'm giving a node port. When I've given a node port, Kubernetes will assign one random port number between 30,000 to 32,767 in that range. So if you don't want the Kubernetes to assign a random port for your service, you can specify your own node port. You can specify your own node port. If you don't specify the node port, then Kubernetes will assign a random port. Once your service is created with the node port, we can access our service outside a cluster using any cluster machine public IP with the node port. Enable node port in security group. That's it. Now there is another Kubernetes service is available, load balancer. When our application is having a load balancer, then we can use service as a load balancer. Let's go to vi java web app service.yml. Okay, let's edit this. Now, instead of the node port service, I can give the service type as a load balancer. I can give the service type as a load balancer. Save it. Now, I want to execute this service. Before going to execute this service, I want to print up existing service, get SVC. Currently, Java Web Application Service is available. Java Web Application Service belongs to what type of service now? It belongs to node port service. Now let me create the service again. kubectl apply -f Java Web App svc.yml. I am recreating my service. After recreating the service, get the service details now. kubectl get svc. Can you see service is changed to load balancer? Can you see service is changed to load balancer? Come on guys. Can we see our service type is changed to load balancer? Yes, service type got changed to load balancer. When service type is changed to load balancer, am I able to access my application? Yes, I'm able to access my application. I'm able to access my application. So here we can configure a load balancer name also for our application. We can configure load balancer name also for our application. Type is the load balancer, and here you can configure one external name. You can configure your external name. For your application, some name will be available, something like www.facebook.com, www.gmail.com. Like that, if you have a load balancer DNS, that load balancer DNS we can configure as a external name. So when we go for auto scaling, I'm going to explain you this external name concept along with the load balancer service. Got it. So here there are three types of services we can use in the Kubernetes. One is a cluster IP, second one is node port service, third one is load balancer service. That is good. Clear. Fine. Guys, now tell me how many pods are running for my application? How many pods are running for my application? Can you check it? How many pods are running for my application now? Only one pod is running for my application. Who created this pod? Kubernetes created this pod, or I have created this pod? Who created this pod? Kubernetes
Person.
created this pod, or we created this pod? Come on, guys. Who created this pod? Kubernetes created this pod, or I have created this pod? I have created this pod. I have created the pod and I exposed the pod by using service. For example, if the pod is deleted, for example, if I delete the pod, come on, I'm going to delete my pod. kubectl, delete pod, pod name, Java web app pod. I have deleted my pod. I have deleted my pod. When I have deleted my pod, Kubernetes is creating another pod. I have deleted my pod. Application is accessible now. If I delete my pod, application is accessible or application is not accessible if I delete the pod. Speak out, guys. Speak out. Application is accessible or application is not accessible? Application is not accessible. Why application is not accessible?
We have deleted the pod.
We have deleted the pod. When I deleted the pod, Kubernetes is recreating the pod or Kubernetes is not recreating the pod?
Not creating.
Kubernetes is recreating the pod or Kubernetes is not recreating the pod? Service is running. Service is running. kubectl get svc. What it is saying that service is running, but inside the service is running, but the pod is deleted. When one particular pod is dead or one particular pod is deleted, Kubernetes is rescheduling the pod for the execution, or our application went down. Application went down. Is it recommended?
No,
Is it recommended? No.
It
So
should
here,
retreat.
that whenever the pod got deleted, Kubernetes told that Kubernetes is a very powerful orchestration platform. Kubernetes is used to manage our containers. Kubernetes is going to scale our application. Kubernetes is going to have self-healing capability. Kubernetes is having auto-scaling capacity. We discussed about Kubernetes Topu Turumu. Yes or no? Come on, guys. We discussed a lot of things in the introduction, right? Kubernetes is very powerful software. Kubernetes is one of the most preferred software to run our applications in the production. Kubernetes is providing high availability. If any one of the node went down, or if any one of the pod went down, Kubernetes is going to recreate that pod for execution. Kubernetes will provide high availability for our application. But currently, high availability available, or my application is having downtime.
Having downtime.
Application is having downtime. Why we got the downtime?
We have deleted the pod.
We have deleted the pod. What is the meaning of a pod? Pod is a smallest building
unit.
block that we execute in the Kubernetes cluster. If you want to execute your Java application, can you execute your Java application directly in the Kubernetes cluster without pods?
no.
No. So if you want to execute your Java application in the Kubernetes cluster, first you need to create a image for your application, Docker image. Using that Docker image, you are going to create a pod. That pod it is going to execute in the Kubernetes cluster. Now I have deleted the pod. My application went down. High availability available or high availability not available now? High availability not available now. Why it is not available? The problem is Kubernetes created the pod or I have created the pod. Guys, Kubernetes created the pod or I have created the pod. We have created the pod. In the above scenario, we have created the pod. We have created the pod manually. It is not recommended. It is not recommended. In the above scenario, we have created the pod manually. It is not recommended. If we create the pod, then Kubernetes will not perform, will not provide, Kubernetes will not provide high availability. Kubernetes will not provide high availability. Let's delete the pod. Let's test it. By deleting our pod. Okay. $kubectl delete pod name. Kubectl delete pod name. Note, when we delete the pod, it is not recreating the pod. So once the pod got deleted, Kubernetes not creating another pod, and application went down. Not accessible. My application is running in the cluster, or my application not running in the cluster now? Guys, my application is running in the cluster, or my application is not running in the cluster?
Not running in the cluster.
Not running in the cluster because my pod is deleted. Okay. So in the Kubernetes is suggesting not to create the pods manually. In the Kubernetes, creating the pods manually is not recommended. Two, if we want to achieve high availability, then we should not create pods manually. What is the first rule you need to remember here in the Kubernetes, guys? Are you going to create the pods manually? Is it recommended or it is not recommended?
Not recommended.
It is not recommended. Why it is not recommended to create the pods manually? Why it is not recommended to create the pods manually?
With this option, you don't get high availability.
Yes, we
When
are not
pods-
getting the high availability of our pods when we create the pods manually. Then what should we do?
Replica sets.
Right. We need to use Kubernetes. We need to use Kubernetes components to create pods. Then Kubernetes will provide high availability. What is the meaning of high availability? Always accessible. High availability means always our application should be accessible. High availability means always our application should be accessible. Always our application should be accessible. That is called as high availability. So in Kubernetes, we have below components to create the pods. Okay, we need to use Kubernetes components to create the pods. Then Kubernetes will provide a high availability for our application. High availability means always our application should be accessible. What are the concepts available in the Kubernetes to create the pods with the high availability? There is a concept called replication controller. What is the first one, guys? Replication controller. And the next one is replication set. And the third one is daemon set. And the fourth one is deployment. Are you guys clear with my point? So how to create the pods in the Kubernetes? Deployment, daemon set, stateful sets, etc. Like that, there are several. options are available to create our pods in the Kubernetes. If you, as of now, I have created a manifest file. I have created a manifest file to create the pod. Manually, I have created that pod for execution. When I create the pod manually, Kubernetes is not going to provide the high availability. If you delete the pod, it is not getting rescheduled. This is the proof. I have deleted my pod. Now see what are the pods available in Kubernetes cluster. kubectl get pods. No pod available in the default namespace because pod is deleted. My application went down. Currently, my application is not running. This is a downtime. High availability not available. The reason I created the pod manually. So it is a thumb rule that you need to remember in the Kubernetes. Pods should not be created manually. If you create the pods manually, you are gone. Your application is going to be down when the pod is deleted. Okay, always you need to use Kubernetes components to create the pods so that Kubernetes will manage high availability. Okay, so what are the components providing by the Kubernetes to create the pods with the high availability? Replication controller is available, replication set is available, daemon set is available, deployment is available, stateful set is available. So here we need to understand these concepts to create the pods. Then Kubernetes will provide high availability for our application. Are you guys getting my point? Somebody is saying that Kubernetes is getting confusing. Kubernetes is confusing us. Kubernetes we are not able to understand. Guys, I'm going very slow and I'm giving very detailed explanation about the Kubernetes. I am trying my best to teach you Kubernetes. I'm trying my best to teach the Kubernetes. Understood as of now? What is the conclusion we learned today? As of now, what is the conclusion? What is the conclusion?
Should not create pods manually.
We should not create pods
We should
manually,
not
right?
create the pods manually. So what we need to use to create the pods?
Replication.
What we need to use to create the pods?
Kubernetes components.
We need to use Kubernetes components. What are the Kubernetes components available to create the pods?
Replication controller,
Replication controller, replication set, daemon set, deployment, and stateful sets are available. Okay, now let's understand what is replication controller and how to create it. What is these all are interview questions. What is pod? What is kubectl? What is a kube proxy? What is a kubelet? What is a replication controller? They will ask you how the pods are created in your Kubernetes cluster. These all are interview questions. Okay, what is replication controller? It is one of the key feature in Kubernetes. Replication controller. It is responsible to manage pod lifecycle. It is responsible to manage pod lifecycle. It is responsible to manage pod lifecycle. It will make sure specified given number of pods. It will make sure given number of pods are running. Given number of pod replicas are running. Given number of pod replicas are running at any point of time. At any point of time, I will tell that always 3 replicas should run for my pod. That means 3 replicas should run for my pod. So if one replica is down, it is responsible to create another replica in place of that. So replication controller is one of the key feature in the Kubernetes cluster. One of the key feature in the Kubernetes cluster. It is responsible to manage pod lifecycle. It will make sure given number of pod replicas are running at any point of time. So if I specify run the 3 replicas for the pod, it will make sure 3 replicas are running at any point of time. If any replica went down, if any pod got crashed, replication controller will replace that. If any pod got crashed, if any pod got crashed or deleted or dead, then replication controller will replace it. You understand the beauty of the replication controller? You understand the beauty of the replication controller?
Yes.
We are going to create the pods in the Kubernetes cluster by using replication controller. Why? Because replication controller will manage the life cycle of that pod. So by using replication controller, I will tell to replication controller, hey, replication controller, run 3 pod replicas for my application. Then it will make sure 3 replicas are running at any point of time. If any one replica got crashed or got deleted or dead, then replication controller will replace it. Okay, replication controller is providing the facility to create the pods with multiple replicas easily. Replication controller is providing facility to create multiple pods, and it will make sure pods always exist. It will make sure pods always exist to run our application. By using replication controller, we can achieve high availability. Okay, using replication controller, we can achieve high availability. Can I achieve high availability using replication controller? Come on, guys. Replication controller and pods are associated with labels and selectors. Replication controller and pods are associated with labels and selectors. Labels and selectors are very important in the Kubernetes cluster. We have created a pod manually. That pod is accessible only within the cluster. To expose the pod outside the cluster, we are using a service. How service identified that pod? Using label and selector. Pod is having a label. We told selector that this is the label we have to access. Similarly, we are going to create the pod by using replication controller. Replication controller is providing high availability for our application because replication controller will make sure always given number of pods are exists. If I specify replication controller count as 1, always 1 pod will be available. If that pod got crashed or if that pod got deleted, no problem. Replication controller will replace that pod with another pod. Replication controller will replace that pod with another pod. Okay. Theoretically, are you clear? What is replication controller? Sachin, समझा?
Yes, sir.
समझ में आया क्या? या बताओ भाई, what is replication controller, Sachin?
एप्लीकेशन कंट्रोलर का यूज करके हम पॉड क्रिएट कर सकते पॉड क्रिएट कर सकते हैं, और अगर डिलीट भी किया हमने पॉड तो उसका रिप्लिकेशन यानी दूसरा पॉड क्रिएट होता है, रिप्लेस होता है.
ठीक है. What is this concept is called in the Kubernetes? What this concept is called in the Kubernetes?
Replication.
Can I say that high availability we are going to achieve?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I say that self-healing capability?
Yes.
Right. Good. Now, how to create a pod by using replication controller, guys? lot of configuration we need to write, guys. Lot of configuration we need to write to create a pod with replication controller. Okay, now let's see here. We are going to write API version, and we are going to write kind. We are going to write metadata. We are going to write spec. If you want to write any manifest file in the Kubernetes, these are common: API version, kind, metadata, and spec. Okay, so here 3 hyphens represents it is start point of the manifest. Okay, here I'm going to separate this and I'm going to write again API version. I'm going to write a kind. I'm going to write a metadata. I'm going to write a spec. Why? One is for pod creation using replication controller. Second one is service to expose the pod outside the cluster. So how many manifest files I need to create now? Two manifest files I need to create. Can we combine 2 manifest files in the single manifest file by using hyphen as a separator? For pod creation, I need 1 manifest file. So pod I can create, but that pod will be accessible only within the cluster. How to expose the pod outside the cluster? Sachin, कैसे हम pod को outside expose कर सकते हैं?
Node port के through.
Node port के लिए. The node port is a service, right? So how many manifest files are required now? 2 manifest files are required. One is for pod creation, second one is for service. Instead of taking 2 manifest files, I'm going to take single manifest file. Okay, guys, I'm going to take the single manifest file. Let me give the comments here. Pod manifest. Ash represents configuration, that is pod manifest. This is service manifest. Node port service manifest. Node post service manifest. Good. First, let me write the pod manifest. We already know what is API version v1. Kind. What is the kind now? Kind is a pod or kind is a replication controller. Do you want to create the pod directly, or you want to create the pod by using replication controller?
Replication control.
If I specify pod directly, what is the problem if I specify here as a pod?
It will create pod.
It will create the pod. It will create the pod manually. So can I have high availability? No.
No.
So what we need to do now?
Replication
Controller.
Replication controller. That's it. I'm going to specify the kind as a replication controller. This manifest will be considered as a replication controller manifest. Okay. Metadata. Inside the metadata, I'm going to give the name. I'm going to give the name as Java Web App RC. RC means replication controller. Now I have a spec. Inside the spec, I'm going to specify replicas. How many replicas we want? 1 replica. When I give 1 replica, what is the meaning of that?
Replication controller will make sure that every time there will be a 1 replica of that pod.
If the pod got dead,
It will create
another pod.
another
If I
pod.
give the number as a 3,
3.
It will
always 3 pods will be available in the cluster. Am I right? Always
Yes.
3 pods will be available in the cluster. So if I give 1, definitely 1 pod will be available. If that pod got deleted also, no problem. Replication controller is going to take care of that. Okay, right. Next one, selector. Selector. So what is that? App. App, what I am giving? Java Web App. Java Web App I am giving for that. Okay. Next one, we need to give template. We need to give the template. So what is the template? Template will specify the name. Template will specify the name. Inside the template, we are going to have the metadata. Metadata. In the metadata, we are going to specify name. I'm going to specify Java web app pod. For this pod, I am going to give label, my label name as a key app value Java web app. Are you clear with this? Are you guys clear with this? So pod manifest I'm writing, API version, kind replication controller, metadata name is Java web application replication controller. Under the specification I specified replica is 1. That means always one replica should be available for the pod. If that replica got deleted, replication controller should replace that pod. Next one, selector. Selector name I have given as a Java web app. Now I am writing a template for that replication controller. Under metadata, I have given the name as a Java web application pod. Label. Labels are used to associate replication controller and pods. Labels and selectors are very important. So selector name and our label name should match. Then only it is going to identify. Once it is completed, then we need to go for pod specification. We need to go for pod specification. Here I have given the specification for replication controller. Okay. Now I am going to give the specification for pod. Under this pod specification, I want to create the containers. My container name should be Java web app container. Java web app container. This container should be created by using a image called Ashok IT / Java web app is my image. For this, I want to do the ports mapping. My container port, my container is running on the port number 8080. My container running on the port number 8080. So here I am trying to create a pod by using replication controller. Are you clear with my point? Can you check that configuration, guys? This is called replication controller manifest file. Kind I am giving as replication controller. In the replication controller, I am giving replication specification and I am giving pod specification. So this replication controller should create the pod by using this specification with one replica. Always one replica should be available for the pod. If that replica got deleted, it should replace that with the another pod. So replication controller should take care of pod availability always. Okay. Now with this, it is going to create the pod. Replication controller is created. Replica means copy. Replication controller is responsible to create the replica. Replica means copy. Akhil. Replica means copy. Who is going to create the copy of your pod? Replication controller. Controller manager. In this, you can see controller manager is available in the cluster. What is this controller manager? Controller manager is responsible to control the things. So who is going to create the pod copy? Who is going to create the pod replica? Replication controller is going to do that. Good. So this is my pod specification with replication controller. Now I should write the service manifest. Why service manifest? Service is used to expose the pod outside the cluster. Service is used to expose the pod outside the cluster. Kind is a service. Kind is a service. Metadata. I'm going to give the name Java web app service. Java web app service. Spec. Service specification. What type of service we want to create? We want to create a node port service so that we can access this outside of the cluster. Selector. What is the selector? What is the selector? Which pod? Java web app pod. Java web app pod. What is the port mapping? What is the port mapping? Here we are going to take the ports. So what is the port here? Port is 80. Port is 80. What is the target port? Target port is 8080. Container port is 8080. Container port is 8080. So this is the end of the manifest. right? How much manifest file we are creating in the Kubernetes cluster just for replication controller. This is pod manifest and this is service manifest. Pod manifest available and service manifest is available. Are you guys clear with my point? Now I want to create the pod by using this replication controller. Very good. Now kubectl get pods. No pods are running. kubectl get svc. One service is available, Java web app service with load balancer. Okay, let's do this creation now. I'm going to create one file vi rc.yml. What is the meaning of rc.yml?
Replication controller.
Replication controller YML. Okay, edit this. Now take the configuration we have created. Take the configuration we have created. Yes, now I pasted this. Okay, this is the configuration just now I have written. This is pod manifest, API version, kind replication controller, metadata, spec, replicas one, selector is Java web app, template metadata, label I have given Java web app, pod specification also I have given. Okay, good. Node port service manifest I have given, API version, kind is a service, metadata Java web app service, specification is a node port, selector is a Java web app. You see here Java web app is available, here Java web app available, here Java web app. Labels and selectors are very important. Okay, save it. Fine. So let's do cat rc.yml. Are we able to see our manifest? So in this manifest file, what are available? What are the things available? Replication controller pod specification available and service manifest specification is also available. Okay, let's try to execute it. I can see one issue here. Selector and ports both are not starting in the same line. Let me go to the insert mode. Right. Naming issues, naming, that indent spacing is very important. Okay, ls-l. Can you see rc.yml, replication controller YML? Let's try to execute it. Okay, good. Now kubectl apply -y rc.yml. Cannot start any token, found character, line number 17, found character that cannot start any token, line number 17. Chalo, vi rc.yml. Where is the mistake, guys? Image, containers, image colon Ashok IT / Java web app. That's correct only, right? After the name, I am giving the image. After that, I am giving the ports. Correct only. Cannot start any token. Container port, container port. That's fine. Ports, container port 8080. That is also good. Let me take this. Let me go to VS Code IDE, Visual Studio Code. Okay. Let me save it in the desktop, some test.yml. Yeah. Is there any error syntactically? Guys, is there any error syntactically? Metadata spec, here metadata, here spec is available. API version spec, ports, target port. Any mistake? Yeah. API version, kind, metadata, name, spec, inside the spec. API version, kind, metadata, inside the metadata name, then spec, inside the spec replicas, then selector, more space there. In the metadata, name, labels. In the labels, I have app. Inside the spec containers. Then good. Too much spacing. Okay. This seems fine now. The labels app is having extra space. The metadata name.
Sir, do this spacing or hyphens can lead to an issue?
No. Let's try. rmrc.yml. I have deleted virc.yml. I'm going to copy this now. Okay. Clear. kubectl apply -f rc.yml. Yeah, perfect. Now we are able to create our service by using replication controller. So with this, our service creation with replication controller got created. Guys, the mistake was too much indent spaces I have given while writing that in the notepad. So because of that, we faced that issue. Using this Visual Studio Code IDE, I'm able to correct that mistake of indent spaces. With this, we are able to create it. Now let's go to kubectl get svc. Now, can you see our service is recreated with node port now? Java web app service is recreated with the node port. Let's check it. kubectl get pods. kubectl get pods. Can you see my pod is running now? Guys, my pod is running or not? This time, what is the port number? 32645. Okay, same port number. Chalo, access our application. Is my application up and running?
Yes.
My application is running or not? How I am accessing my application? How this pod is accessible outside the network, outside the cluster?
Application controller.
Yes, application is accessible outside the cluster. Pod is accessible outside the cluster. How the pod is accessible outside the cluster? Who is
Using
providing that? Who is providing that class pod accessibility outside the cluster?
node port service.
Node port service. Where I have configured the node port service manifest. Do I have a separate manifest for the node port, or node port is also part of the pod manifest?
The part of same pod manifest.
Node port is separate manifest, or node port is part of the pod manifest only? Pod manifest only. So here within my manifest file, within the YML, I have two manifests. What are those two manifests I have? One is pod manifest, and I separated with the 3 hyphen. This is my service manifest. This is my service manifest. So this is my pod manifest, and this is my service manifest. Now, pod is created by me, or pod is created by using replication controller?
Replication controller.
Replication controller. How many replicas I have given now? One replica. What is the meaning of one replica?
Every time replication controller will make sure that there will be one replica present of that pod.
Exactly. Right. Now, can you identify the pod name? When we created the pod name is taken as Java Web App. Now, pod name is Java Web App RC-QLWPG. Some name is available for the pod. So can you see the name of the pod now? Guys, can you see the name of the pod?
Yes.
Can we delete that pod?
Yes.
Yes.
How to delete that pod?
kubectl delete,
kubectl get
kubectl
delete,
delete
Hype.
pod,
hyphen u. Or you
delete
can-
pod,
okay.
pod name. Can I give the pod name to delete it now?
Yes.
Yes or no? Yes.
Yes.
Delete it. Pod deleted. When the pod is deleted, access the application. Application is accessible or application is down?
Accessible.
No. Now it is accessible. So there is some downtime or not? Fraction of seconds, man. For fraction of seconds, my application is accessible or my application is not accessible? For a fraction of seconds is not accessible. Can you see the pod name now?
It has changed.
Pod is created or pod is not created?
Created.
Not created.
Created and it is
created,
running.
created.
Created 34 seconds ago.
Different name.
Created or not. So the name got changed for the pod.
Yes.
Pod is recreated, right? Now let me delete this pod also. kubectl get pods. What is the name of the pod? 5JBR8. Okay. kubectl delete pod. Let me take the pod name. Let me give it. Delete it. Pod is deleted. Now let's check the pods. Currently, what is happening? What is the status now?
Container creating.
Not creating.
Yeah, when I deleted the pod, when I check the get pods, 0 of 1. Actually, one pod should execute, but currently 0. The reason? Container is creating. Container is creating. Now see, pod is created or not?
Yes.
Pod is
Yes.
created or not?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, pod is created. Application is accessible. So what is the difference you observed? When I create the pod manually, when I create the pod by using replication controller.
Manually, when we created, the pod got deleted, means the application instance got deleted when we deleted the pod, but replication controller, like even though we have deleted the pod, like there is a downtime, but container replication controller makes sure that the new pod will get spawned when the pod is deleted. So every time we are having at least, means exactly one pod which we have mentioned as a replica. So we are having that much replicas present.
So can we say high availability available for the application now? Somewhat better than last time?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I say that somewhat better than last time?
Yes.
Yes.
So last time when the pod got deleted, application went down. But now when the pod got deleted, replication controller recreating that pod. Replication controller recreating that pod. Are you guys clear now?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Now I want to scale my application. I want to scale my application. What is the meaning of scaling the application? Running the application in the multiple containers is called scaling. Running the application in the multiple containers is called as scaling. Now, how to scale it? How to scale it? Right now, let's see here. Currently, how many pods are running for our application, guys?
One.
One pod is running. Now I want to scale it. kubectl scale replication controller. By using replication controller, Java Web App RC replicas 3. What is the meaning of this command? What is the meaning of this command?
We are creating the 3 replicas of replication controller named Java Web App RC.
Right. So what is the meaning of that?
So we
Copy
will
container.
Pods available.
Now let us
Always
see.
3 pod will be available.
Running,
Now
yes.
I have scaled my application by using replication controller. Get pods. Now how many pods are running?
3.
How many pods are running now? Clear, right? kubectl, get pods. How many pods are running? 3 pods are running. One pod is running from 3 minutes. 2 pods are started 19 seconds ago. Can you see the age of the pod?
Yes.
One pod is running from 3 minutes. Remaining 2 pods are running from 19 seconds. Now my application is running in 3 pods. My application is running in 3 pods. Now let me delete one pod, guys. kubectl delete pod. I'm going to delete the pod which is very old. 3 minutes pod. I'm deleting. Pod is deleted. When the pod is deleted, get the pods. Can you see? Immediately pod is recreated 3 seconds ago. Can you see? Guys, can you see the pod is recreating or not?
Yes.
Earlier, there is a pod which created 3 minutes ago. I have deleted that pod by using name. Then when I get the pods, already 3 pods are available. What about the deleted pod?
Recreated.
Can I say it is a self-healing capacity?
Yes.
When one pod got deleted, replication controller replacing that pod with another pod. This is called self-healing capability of the Kubernetes. Can I say it is managing our containers in the pods? Can I say it is providing high availability for our application?
Yes.
Now, is it recommended to create the pods manually, or it is recommended to create the pods using replication controller?
Using
Replication controller.
Replication controller. Are you able to understand my point now? Practically, I have shown you how the pods are getting recreated. Now, can you read this theory? Now you will get more clarity on this theory. When I'm writing the theory first time, you may not be able to connect it. Practically, I have shown you how the pods are getting recreated when the pod is deleted. Now read the theory. Guys, is this theory clear now?
Yes.
Yes.
You got the clarity?
Yes. Sir.
Very good. So with this, we understood what is replication controller.
Sir,
Replication, tell me.
एक बार ये मैनिफेस्टो एक बार बताएंगे क्या? वहीं पे कंफ्यूजन हो रहा है थोड़ा.
Sorry?
YAML फाइल मैनिफेस्ट पॉड मैनिफेस्ट
YAML
Yeah.
file.
आपने
Yeah.
यहीं पे पॉड मैनिफेस्ट फर्स्ट वन.
Yeah, you can read it. Tell me what you are not able to understand.
सर ये मेटा डेटा फर्स्ट जो हमने यूज किया है वो कंटेनर के लिए यूज किया है, ठीक है. मेटा डेटा नेम जावा वेब.
No. This metadata is for the replication controller. This is completely for replication controller.
ओके.
This is for the pod.
ये टेम्पलेट किस लिए यूज किया हमने?
So template is used to specify which template it has to use to create. Template is used to specify our pod label name.
Okay.
This is pod specification. Okay. This
Okay.
is replication controller specification.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
We no need to specify here labels in replica controllers, replication controllers.
No. Here I'm specifying label. What is the purpose of replication controller? Why we are using replication controller? Someone is using replication controller, or replication controller is using the pod?
Replication control is used to create the pods, correct?
Exactly. Yes. For the pod, we have given the label. Using this label, replication controller selecting that pod. For replication controller, label is not required.
Okay, sir. Today only I send upload one message is sent in our group regarding regarding Kubernetes issue.
Mhm.
Did you check that?
No, sir, I did not get the chance. I will check it.
So whenever I am creating the pod, it is showing the status as creating the container only. It is
Okay,
not creating.
I will see the issue. Okay. Yeah, guys. Are you clear?
Yes.
Shall we move on to the next concept now?
Yes,
The
sir.
next concept is replica set.
సార్ అది మామూలుగా బిల్లింగ్ పడుతుంది. బిల్లింగ్ పడినప్పుడు అది మనకి చెబుతున్నారు కదా, తర్వాత అది చెబుతారు ఎట్లా సార్ అది?
Sure, sir. I will show you. I will show you that.
ఓకే సార్. ఓకే
You
సార్.
can create a ticket in the support center of AWS.
ఓకే.
Okay, I will show you today only.
ఓకే సార్. థ్యాంక్ యూ.
Right, guys. Now we are going to talk about replication set, that is called as a replica set. Replica set is the next generation of the replication controller. It is next generation of replication controller. It is also used to manage pod lifecycle. It is also used to manage pod lifecycle. Pod lifecycle. We can scale up and scale down by using replica set also. We can scale up and scale down pods using replica set also. Using replica set also. Right? Replication controller is already available. Then why replica set? Replica set is the advanced version of the replication controller. Whatever we can do by using replication controller, same thing we can do by using replica set also. Replica set is the next generation of the replication controller. Replica set is the next generation of the replica set is the next generation of the replication controller. Okay. It is also used to manage pod lifecycle. We can scale up and scale down pods using replica set also. The only difference between replication controller and replica set is the selector support. Here we are giving selectors. Here we are giving the selectors, right? So the only difference between replication controller and replica set is the selector. The only difference between replication controller, the only difference between replication controller and replication set is selector. Is selector support. When we go for replication controller, we have selector support with equality. Equality equals. We have two types of selectors. We have two types of selectors in the Kubernetes. One is equality selector and the second one is set based selector. If you go for replica controller or replication controller, you can use equality selector. But when you go for replication set, you can give multiple selector with some conditions, right? So here, when we go for equality selector, example, we are giving selector app as a Java web app. That's it. You can give only one selector. If the selector is equal to this, then only use it. But when you go for set based selector, here you can give multiple selectors. You can give multiple selector, match labels, match expression, match expressions or match labels. We can give like this. Okay, key value. Key I'm going to give as a yap. Key I'm going to give as a wap. Operator in. Operator in. Values I'm going to specify multiple. So I want to give multiple values for the selector. Java app, Java web, Java web, Java web app, Java web app, like this. Based on any selector, it should identify my application. Then I can go for a replica set. Replication controller and replication set difference is only selector support. When you go for replication controller, it supports equality selector. When we go for replication set, it supports set based selector. We can give multiple selectors based on the conditions. We can give multiple selectors based on the conditions. So let us see in the Google replication controller versus replication set in Kubernetes. It can be considered as a replacement or replication controller. The replica set and replication controller's key difference is the replication controller only supports equality based selector, whereas replication set supports set based selector. Are you guys able to understand what is the difference between? Are you guys able to understand what is the difference between the replication controller and replication set? What is the difference between replication controller and replication set? When you go for replication controller, only it supports equality based selector. But when you go for replication set, it supports multiple values for a selector. Selectors are used to select your application. Selector is used to select your application. Clear, guys? That is the only difference between replication controller and replication set. Replica set and replication controller. Okay. Now we are going to take one more manifest file. Let me reuse same manifest here. I think here we have created the correct manifest.
Sir, can I ask the question?
1 second, madam.
Sure.
Right. Yeah, now you can go ahead. What's your question?
When you say set-based selector means, is it multiple web applications considered as a set?
Yes.
So
Name,
the previous
alias,
one-
it is just alias names. Alias names
So
we
the
are going to give.
So how the alias name is different from scale? So when we did scale also,
Huh?
we did the multiple instances of the same application, right? To scale
Right,
up,
right,
right?
right.
And even in the set, if it is a alias, that means in a nutshell, we are doing the scaling up only, right? With a different name.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can keep it.
Okay. So what I'm asking is how scaling versus this set is different.
No.
It is
There is
doing
no.
both, correct?
No. There is no difference in terms of scaling. Scaling you can
Okay.
do by using replication controller or by using replication set also. The only difference is how to configure selectors to identify this service. That's it.
Okay. So both one at the same.
Yep. In a nutshell, both are
Okay.
same. Both are used for the same purpose. The only difference is earlier in the replication controller, they have given the support for writing only one selector. It can identify the pod, or it can identify the pod
So
by
the
using
names
only
are
one
dynamic.
selector.
The
Yes.
names are dynamic, and
Dynamic.
here are we are giving that to whatever the way we want to.
Yes. So here I can give in the SQL, you will write the SQL queries, right? In if your employee ID is in, if employee ID equals to, or if employee ID between, employee ID greater than, less than, some conditions we are writing. Instead of going for just equals, we are going to write some conditions to identify the labels. That's it.
Thank you.
Got it?
Means any one of these three can be applied.
Yes, any one of these three can be applied.
Okay, okay.
So that is the only difference between the replication controller and replication set. Functionality wise, both are same. So both are used to scale the application. Both are used to provide the pods creation. Both will make sure that pods are exist always. The only difference comes when we are going for selectors. That's it. Right. Now I have taken previous file. Now I want to modify this. When we are going to work with the replica set, as I told you, replica set is the advanced version of the replication controller. The API version is, they changed the API version to apps/1. When you go for replication controller, the API version will be available as a V1. But in the Kubernetes, when they released a replication set, as they updated the replication controller to the next version, they have given the API version as apps/v1. You need to specify this, and here you need to set replica set. This is the change. Pod manifest configuration, API version as apps/v1. Kind is replica set. Metadata name, spec replication, selector. Here selectors is going to change. This is the difference they made, right? So in the selector, instead of giving the name directly, in the selectors, we are going to write match labels. Any label which is matched with this name, it has to identify. Match labels. This is the difference. Earlier in the pod manifest, what we have given, selector directly I have given. Now instead of giving the selector directly, now what we are going to give, in the selector we are going to write match labels. Inside the match labels, I'm going to give my selector name. Understand? And this API version, they upgraded to apps/v1, and this is replica set. That's it. So this is our pod manifest, service manifest, which is used to create the pods, using replica set. Good. Quickly, let's take this. Clear? Let me create one more YML, vi rs.yml. RC means replication controller, rs.replication set. See the changes that I have made. API version, I change it to apps v1. Here I'm going to specify pod manifest configuration. Pod manifest with rs replica set. The only difference, instead of giving the equality selector, I have given match labels selector. Any label which is matched with this name, that it should consider. Good. Clear. kubectl get service. So node port service is available currently. kubectl get pods. 3 pods are running. Now let me apply this. ls-l rs.yml is available. kubectl apply -f rs.yml. Perfect. In single shot, we are able to create the replication set. Service not changed, just pod manifest got changed. We used replication set. Now kubectl get pods. kubectl get pods. Just the label name got changed. The pods are running. It is going to identify already the pods are running. So there is no issue. Now here If you want, you can change this rs.yml. Instead of giving the metadata name as RC, we can give the metadata name as RS, Java Web App RS, replication set. Okay, this is service manifest and this is our pod manifest with RS. Now save it. Okay, kubectl apply -f rs.yml. RS got created. kubectl get pods. Now pods are available. Pods are available. Can you see it created one pod? Guys, can you see it created one pod by earlier pods are created by using RC. Now it created by using RS. Created by using RS. Are you able to understand why only one pod is created now? Why only one pod is created?
Because replica specified there is one.
Replica specified there is one. Now can I scale this replica now? Can I scale this replica? kubectl get pods. Total how many pods are running now? 5 pods are running. Why 5 pods are running? 3 pods created by replica controller. First time replica set also created one pod with RC. Now I renamed that RC to RS. Now replica set is created one pod. How can we scale up this now? How can we scale up this now? Do you know how to scale up? Come on. kubectl scale. kubectl scale RS. What is that name? Java Web App RS. Replicas 2. Am I able to scale it now? Get pods. Can you see the container is creating now? Can you see the container is creating now? Come on, guys. So by using replica set also, are we able to create the containers? Guys, I'm not getting any voice.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You're not able to understand or are not interested to talk.
Sometimes getting nuts.
Yeah, I'm open for doubts, guys, please. You need to understand the concept. That is the intention. Just take 2 minutes of break, have some water and come back. Okay. Just take a water and think about it. What is the difference between that replica controller and replica set? How I created a manifest. Check this manifest first. ये कहाँ गया? Yes, check this manifest.
Ashok, here one difference you mentioned here is the match label, right? You said any label matching with this Java Web App, right? But there is only one label that we have specified for pod, right? Java Web App only. So how it is support this that statement? Like I did not get that point. Hello.
Looks like take some break.
There is some break.
You mean the alias names, correct? When you do this match label Java
Yeah.
Web App versus the alias names, correct?
Yes. I means this is the main part here.
Bro, anyone please? Anyone friend? Hello?
Yes, Taran.
Bro, please any friend, please tell me why using a template here, please. Template, 10th line.
Template, metadata, name this one.
10th line template is there. No, what are the purpose of the template?
Okay, so the purpose of this template is because we are using replicas. So replicas that monitor the application completely. it will use a template to recreate a new one. That's why.
But we are writing for a template in only for either a replica controller or replica sector.
Friend,
Either in form-
template is used only for labels.
Ah,
Template is used for only for labels.
label.
Yes, label.
There also we can write that, service here also, where in service. Service also you are writing labels, no bro? Understood what I'm asking?
This manifesto for pod. Okay.
There also labels is there. That label, this label is matched, then only we can consider that our cluster is accessing for outside.
Yes,
Okay. But there we are not writing template. Here only we are writing template. What are the main purpose of the template? That's I'm asking, please.
Sir, we are getting doubts about templates and containers. Can you just explain once?
Yeah, the functionality is clear, but the main part is to understand the YAML files only.
The rest of things, these are all clarities. The API
Yes,
version,
yes.
metadata.
But the important point is to understand the YAML files.
What are the need of the template? Without template also we can specify the labels. No? Something is there. That's why I'm asking. Really, I don't know. So the rest of things, 100% clarity is there.
Yeah, Ashok is there. We can ask him to explain
Yeah,
it
okay,
again.
no problem, no problem. In case of anyone knows like that, I am asked. Okay, thank you, brothers.
So I guess when you look at template and you say just under template, there is aggregation, and then there is metadata, and then there is identification as well. And this is where you mentioned the name and then the labels, and then the label. This is what is used for us to, this is what is used for the selector. So the template, I think you put all the information under this template. I think it's more like the structure of the file, how you use this replica set.
Yeah, hi guys, I'm back. I got some water. Yeah. So what's going on?
We were having a conversation about templates, so could you please explain more details? So
Your break is good. A lot of people are able to speak out.
Yeah. Actually, Ashok, the concepts are clear, like what is RC and RS, but means replica set and replica controller, I mean to say. And but the main important thing is to understand the YAML file here. So we are getting a lot of confusions here. So could you please explain it like one of the guys said that template is used in a replica set for mentioning the label, but not in the another service. There is not template. So template is not mentioned in the service file, but still label is there. So we just get confused with it.
Okay, so you guys want to understand what is the template?
Template and whole YAML file is important, right? So concept we got that what is the purpose of replica set and replication controller, but we have to understand how we can represent this YAML file, how we can write it in efficient way.
Good, got it. Yes, sir. I will take a special class for making sure that you guys will write the templates, right? Like this manifest files.
Yeah, but
yes, sir, definitely. I will give you more clarity on what is this YAML.
Please explain this. But as of now, could you please explain this file once again, because a lot of people having that confusion
Right,
on the
sir.
template
So
and labels.
yeah, I will come to that. So first of all, are you
Okay,
guys,
thank you.
yeah, are you guys comfortable with what is replication controller and what is replication set and how to create them, how to execute them? What is the difference between those two? Are you guys comfortable?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Are you guys comfortable?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. So what is the difference between that replication controller and replication set?
The first one is the version, API
Yep.
version. The
Yes.
second,
Yeah, what first one is the API version, that is the difference. Very good. Next.
we like it is for the replication controller is for the only equal, but here in replica set there is one more which is match labels.
Mhm.
Multiple you can give names, so based on that it will match that.
Right. Multiple selectors we can configure. Multiple selectors we can configure by using replication set.
Set.
What is the advantage of going for? What is the advantage of going for replication controller or replication set here?
At a time we can have multiple selectors,
High availability.
multiple
High availability,
applications.
high availability. We can say high.
Minimum downtime.
Yeah, minimum downtime. Minimum downtime. So if I create the pod manually, then what is happening?
Once we delete the pod, the application goes down.
Yeah, if the pod got expired, then the pod is not getting recreated when we go for normal, right? Here, if you go with the pod creation by using replication controller or replication set, when the pod got down, then it is getting recreated. That is the main advantage of going for replication controller or replication set. Clear, guys?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Good. Now, there are other things also available. Like daemon set and deployment is available. So let's come to what is daemon set. What is daemon set in Kubernetes? Guys, whenever I'm executing these pods, can you tell me where these pods are running? We have multi-node cluster, where the pods are running?
Worker node.
Worker nodes.
Get pods -0 white. Now, where the pods are running? All the pods are running in all the nodes.
Yes.
Pods are running in all the nodes, or pods are running in one node?
No,
Something
Depending
pods
on
are
the
running
replica.
only particular
Right.
node.
It is running on the particular node. So am I telling that my pod should run on the worker node 1 or worker node 2 like that, or it is managed by control plane?
Control.
Controller plane.
Am I deciding that where my pod should run in this cluster?
No.
No. Who is deciding that where this pod should run in the cluster?
Control plane.
As part of control.
Master node.
Master node or control node. It is taking care of that. This pod should run on the particular worker node. Now, I want to run my pod in all the worker nodes. Are you guys getting my point? Currently, one pod is running on one worker node 1, another pod is running on worker node 2, like that pods are running. So the pods are distributed to the worker nodes. Who distributed these pods to the worker nodes now? The pods distributed to worker nodes by control plane, master node. Now my requirement is I want to run my pod in all the worker nodes. For that, we are going for a concept called daemon set. What we are going to use for that, guys? Daemon set. Daemon set concept is available. So see here, what is daemon set? A daemon set ensures that all nodes run a copy of a pod. As nodes are added to the cluster, pods are added to them. As nodes are removed from the cluster, those pods are garbage collected. Deleting a daemon set will clean up the pods it got created. Can you guys read this official documentation of the Kubernetes? Can you read it?
Sir, when we mention the replica also, it runs only on the same node, same worker node. Let's say if we say replica 2 copies, the 2 copies currently without daemon set, it runs in the same node, same worker
Yeah,
node.
there is no guarantee that, right? So 2 pods may run on the same node, 2 pods may run on the 2 different nodes. There is no guarantee.
Oh, okay. Okay. How the distribution is not guaranteed.
Yes, right.
But with the daemon set, we know that
Definitely
the
100%
pod
it is
runs
guaranteed.
on all the worker. It runs on
Yes.
all the worker nodes.
The copy of your pod will run on all the worker nodes. If you have 10 worker nodes, the pod will run on all the 10 worker nodes. That is guaranteed.
So, but whatever the replica number given, let's say we give three.
No,
means let's say,
replicas concept will not applicable here now.
oh,
But earlier also we checked that all the worker node was running over pods.
Yes, sir. That is not. Suppose currently we are having 2 worker nodes. Now, for example, I have given the replica. If I give replica is only 1, I have 10 nodes cluster. Where your pod will run in that? Is it going to run on the 10 nodes?
No.
Now, assume that I want to run my pod. I want to run my pod with only 1 replica, but I have 10 worker nodes.
hello.
Where it is going to run?
Any one of the.
Hello.
Any one of the worker node. But
Hello?
what is my requirement now?
Hello.
My requirement is to
It should be available on
all the worker nodes.
Yes, I got it now.
You got it now? Can you guys read it
Yeah,
once
yeah.
again? What is daemon set? Guys, all of you read it. What is daemon set now? Guys, what is a daemon set now? This is a damn sure interview question.
It basically ensures that every worker node should have a copy for a pod.
Yes, right.
తెలుగులో చెప్పండి సార్.
తెలుగులో చెప్పాలా?
చెప్పండి సార్ పాపం ఏమైంది?
It is easy to understand today, but in 1 or 2 days it is.
ప్రతి వర్కర్ నోడ్ లో మన పాడ్ రన్ చేయాలి అంటే డిమాండ్ సెట్ కి వెళ్తాం. అర్థమైందా? సో వెన్ మనం పాడ్ ఎప్పుడైతే క్రియేట్ చేస్తున్నామో ఆ పాడ్ ఏ వర్కర్ నోడ్ లో ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవ్వాలి అనేది ఎవరు డిసైడ్ చేస్తున్నారు? హూ ఈస్ డిసైడింగ్ దాట్? కంట్రోలర్ ప్లేన్. Control plane is deciding that whenever I execute my pod, when I want to run my pod, I want to run one pod, only one pod.
Okay.
But I have 4 node cluster, 4 worker nodes are available. A pod ఏ node మీద execute అవుతుంది? మీకు డిసైడ్ చేయగలరా అది? చేయలేము. నా రిక్వైర్మెంట్ ఏంటి అంటే నా pod అన్ని నోడ్స్ లో ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవ్వాలి. దానికి మనం డీమాన్ సెట్ యూజ్ చేస్తాం. Got it?
Fine. Thank you so much.
Right. Guys, you understand what I mean to say? हर node में मेरा pod execute होना चाहिए. Then we should go for daemon set. A daemon set ensures that all the nodes runs a copy of a pod. As nodes are added to the cluster, if you add 10 nodes to the cluster, your pod will run in all the 10 nodes. If you add 20 nodes to the cluster, your pod will run in all the 20 nodes. Sir, what is the use case? What is the use case? Already we have a cluster. Already we have a control plane, which is going to manage the pod's execution, which is going to manage the pod's availability. Then why should we run a copy of the pod on the each node? It is used to collect the logs of our application. Suppose, for example, my application running on a particular node, I want to understand the metrics of that pod. I want to understand the metrics of that node. I want to collect the logs from that node. So when our application is running on multiple nodes, from every node, I need to collect the logs. From every node, I want to collect the metrics, right? Now, if the node is executing, I want to understand CPU utilization of that node. Then I will run a pod on that node. That pod is going to collect what is the CPU utilization of that node. If the CPU utilization reaching 80%, then I'm going to do auto scaling for that. So like that, whenever we are going for a project, so there are some requirements like we have seen, we are going to see in the coming classes, like log monitoring, ELK stack we are going to see, Prometheus we are going to see, Kubernetes cluster monitoring, Grafana we are going to see. So those kind of tools I want to execute as pods in all the nodes. My pod should execute in all the nodes of the cluster. Then we need to go for a concept called daemon set. Understood? What is the purpose of daemon set? A daemon set ensures that all the nodes run a copy of the pod. As the nodes are added to the cluster, pods are added to them. As the nodes are removed from the cluster, those pods are garbage collected. Deleting a daemon set will clean up the pods it created. Suppose once I create a daemon set, if I delete that daemon set, then the pods which created by the daemon set in all the nodes will be deleted. Some typical uses of the daemon set: running a cluster storage daemon on every node. I want to run some storage on the every node, then I can go for a daemon set. I want to collect the logs of every node. Log collector I am going to run on every node by using a daemon set pod. Node monitoring daemon. I want to monitor the node performance, node CPU utilization. So I want to create a pod. That pod should execute on all the nodes. For that we will go for daemon set. Samjhe? Now let me show you how to create a daemon set. Let me show you how to create a daemon set. Before going to create a daemon set, can we delete all of them, guys? Whatever the services we created, can we delete all the objects now? Can we delete all the objects whatever we created in the Kubernetes cluster, because our worker nodes are just 1 GB RAM nodes, so memory will not be sufficient now. I want to delete that. How to delete all the objects that we created in the cluster? Currently, there are so many services are running. kubectl get nodes, 3 nodes are available. kubectl get pods, there are some pods are running. kubectl get svc, some services are running. Now, whatever the services, objects, pods I have created, I want to delete all of them. See, how can I delete all of them? kubectl delete all -all. kubectl delete all -all. All. kubectl delete all -all.
So we can also use the command sudo qmadm reset.
Yeah. See here, is it deleting all the pods which I have created? Is it deleting my replication controller? Is it deleting my replication service also? Deleted or not? Yep, all the services that we have deleted. Whatever the services we have created, all the services we are going to delete. Now let's see. kubectl get nodes. 3 nodes are available. kubectl get pods. Currently, any pods are running now? Guys, currently, any pods are running? No.
No.
kubectl get svc. Default service is running. What is the default service? Kubernetes service.
Kubernetes.
How to delete all the objects that we have created? kubectl
ETL.
delete all hyphen all.
All.
All. What is the meaning of this command? What is the meaning of this command?
Delete all
Delete
pods
all
and
nodes,
services.
pods and services.
Not nodes. Delete all the pods, delete all the services, delete all the namespaces, whatever we have created. Now my cluster became fresh cluster now. Whatever I have created from last 2 days, 3 days, I have removed everything. Okay, guys, sometimes you may get a problem when you are running multiple pods and services, because what is the EC2 VM we use to create our worker node? Are we using 4 GB RAM or 1 GB RAM for worker nodes? Guys, come on.
4 GB.
Which EC2 instance we use to create our worker nodes?
4 GB.
Micro. T2 micro. For master node we used medium.
Yes.
For worker nodes we used micro. What is the RAM capacity of the micro node? Micro instance?
1
GB. 1 GB. So can you run these many pods services on 1 GB nodes?
No, sir.
No, right? So that's why once your practice is completed, whenever you are facing some issue, let's delete all the pods that we have created. kubectl delete all hyphen all. It is going to delete all the objects that we have created. Now I want to create one daemon set. Okay, now I am going to take the example for the daemon set using HTTPD package manager that I'm going to take for that, guys. So I will show you how the daemon set is getting executed in all the YMLs. Okay, 1 second. So what is the meaning of daemon set? You got the concept, right?
Yes, sir.
What is the meaning of daemon set?
We have multiple work. What that work?
We have multiple worker nodes. Can you
Worker
see?
nodes. Yeah. If you want to run our node into all worker nodes, that time we will create.
kubectl get nodes. How many nodes are available now? 3 nodes are available. I want to create a pod. That pod I want to run in all the nodes. The pod which I am going to create, that pod should run in all the nodes.
The work nodes.
Okay. pi ds.yml daemon set. Now, can you see this configuration? Can you see this configuration? API version apps/v1 kind. What is the meaning of kind? What is the meaning of kind? Daemon set. Metadata is logging, spec selector, match labels I'm giving, app is HTTPD logging, template metadata I'm giving as HTTPD logging. This is my pod container. This is my pod container. Okay, good. Now let me save this file. Clear. kubectl get svc. Currently, how many services are running now? Only one service is running, that is the default Kubernetes service. kubectl get pods. Currently, how many pods are running? How many pods are running?
0.
0 pods are running currently. Okay. Now I'm going to execute my daemon set. How can we execute the daemon set? kubectl apply -f ds.yml. logging daemon set is created. Now kubectl get pods. Now how many pods are created?
2.
2 pods are created. Why 2 pods got created?
We have 2 work nodes.
Did I specify anywhere in the file that I need to? Did I specify any replica? I need 2 pods.
No.
Did I specify any replica? I need 2 pods. No. By default, it created 2 pods. Why it created 2 pods? Now 2 pods are running. Why the 2
Because
pods
there
are
are
running?
because there are 2
Ah.
worker node, I think.
There are 2 worker nodes available. That's why 2 pods got created. Understood?
Yes.
So it
Okay.
it doesn't do any automated scaling or anything.
Nothing.
Number of-
Nothing. No.
so
Replicas.
depending on
Replicas not applicable for daemon set.
Daemon set.
Replicas not applicable for daemon set.
so which approach is recommended? Going with the daemon
No.
set
For
or the-
applications, for
No.
application execution, we don't use daemon set. Daemon set we will use for log collection, node monitoring, log collection, storage on every node. For extra features, we are going to use the daemon set. For applications, we are going to use replicas only. Now your
Okay.
application is running, your microservice is running on one node. How you will collect logs of that microservice?
Okay,
You got my point?
got it. So that when you run the daemon set, so it collects all this audit
Log.
purpose information.
Right,
Okay.
right. So daemon sets we are going to execute. Daemon sets we are going to use it to run the pods for auditing purpose of our application.
Okay.
Right. Now I want to monitor every
Like
node,
actuator.
like actuators, we can say in the Spring Boot.
Yes.
Right. I want to monitor my node performance. What is the CPU utilization of the node? What is the network speed of the node? I want to monitor each and every node. How can I monitor each and every node? By using pod, which is created by using daemon set. Guys, a lot of depth is there in the Kubernetes. You understand?
Yes, slowly we can understand.
Yes.
Yeah. So with this, we completed the important concepts that are related to pod creation. Some important concepts related to pod creation we completed. And the most important real time used concept for the pod creation we need to understand, that is deployment. So currently, how many ways we created our pods? How many ways we created our pods?
3 ways.
3 ways or 4 ways?
4 ways.
4 ways.
Manually created
Oh.
pod.
Yeah, manually. Yeah.
Manually pod created,
In
not recommended. Is it recommended or not recommended?
Not recommended.
Not recommended. Next, what we have done?
Replication controller.
Replication pod creation using
replication controller.
replication controller. Next,
Pod
pod
creation
creation
using
using
Application set.
replica set.
Set.
Replica set is the next generation of the replication controller. The
Control.
difference between the replication controller and replication set is
So
selector. Next one, pod creation using daemon set. When we need to go for daemon set?
When we want to have
you want to run
replica on every
all
node.
worker nodes.
Yes. If you want to run a pod in all the worker nodes, then you need to go for daemon set
Daemon
concept. So are we going to use a daemon set for real application deployment, or daemon set will be used for logs collection, node monitoring?
Log collection and node
storage
monitoring.
monitoring.
Log collection and log monitoring for logs collection and node monitoring purpose, we are going to use daemon set. Now in the Kubernetes, there is another important topic to create the pod, that is deployment. There is another important concept available in the Kubernetes, which is called as a deployment. By using deployment also, we can create the pods. By using deployment also, we can create the pods in the Kubernetes. Deployment is the most recommended approach to create the pods in our application. Are you guys able to understand my point? You see, if you go for Kubernetes official documentation, you can understand what is that deployment. What is deployment in Kubernetes? What is the deployment in Kubernetes? Go to this Kubernetes official documentation. ये क्या बोल रहा देखो? Deployment provides a declarative updates for pods and replica sets. You describe desired state in a deployment, and the deployment controller changes the actual state to the desired state at the controlled rate. You can define deployments to create a new replica sets or remove existing deployments and adopt all the resources with the new deployments. Okay, create a deployment, create a deployment. So this is the example that they have given to create a deployment using Nginx container. Nginx container they have given here. Nginx container they have given here. Right now, deployment. What is the deployment? What is the deployment in the Kubernetes? Kubernetes deployment is used to tell Kubernetes how to create or modify instances of the pods. Okay. By using deployment, we can roll out and roll back. We can roll out and roll back our application deployment. For example, let us take one scenario, guys. Now, by using replica set, I am going to create the pod. Okay, my pod is created. Application is running. People are accessing your application. Within 10 minutes, you realize it that there is a critical bug in your application. Then what you need to do? Can you cancel your deployment? Can you roll back your deployment? Guys, now here I'm going for replica set. I'm writing this pod manifest. I'm going to execute the pod manifest by using replica set. Pods created, application deployed to the production, application live. Within 10 minutes, you realized that there is a problem in your code. Developers has written some bad code. The code is not working in the production. Then what you will do? If the code is having some issue, they did not identify it in the testing. They have committed the code. They told that code is working. You created the you created the pods for that code by using replica set. You told 10 replicas to create, 10 pods got created. Application is running. Within 10 minutes, you realize that the production is having some issue. Your code is having some issue. Then what you will do? Then what you will do, guys?
We'll do a rollout.
We need to roll back our
Roll back.
deployment.
You need to roll back, or you need to roll down on the floor and cry?
Yeah, that also we can.
Do you have
Depends on
you-
situation.
Sir.
No.
Depends on situation, sir.
Depends upon the situation, huh?
We have to run away from there.
You have to run away from. Do you have any option to roll back our deployment when you go for this replica set or replication controller?
No,
No, sir, no.
no, we don't.
Do we have any option to undo our deployment?
No.
No.
No,
No. That is one of the challenge here when you create the pods by using replication controller or replication set or by using demand set. You created, that's it. You created, it's done. Application went live. If you find some bug, then what you need to do? Again, you need to deploy. Do you have the option to do Control Z undo?
No.
No. If you go for deployment concept in the Kubernetes, you have that option called undo. If you want, you can promote your deployment. If you don't want, you can cancel your deployment. This is a beautiful concept they provided in the deployment. So deployment is the most recommended approach to deploy our pods using Kubernetes cluster. Whenever you are working with a Kubernetes cluster to create the pods, we have seen several options. Manually, we created the pod, not at all recommended. So pods we are creating by using replication controller, by using replication set. Why we are creating by using replication controller or replication set? Why we are creating the pods by using replication controller or replication set?
For high
For high
availability.
availability.
For high availability. For high availability. To achieve the self-healing capabilities, we are going to create the pods by using replication controller and replication set. And we have another problem. When we go for the replication controller, is it scaling automatically? Manually, I am scaling by using scale command. Manually. Do we have auto scaling feature?
No.
No, we don't have a auto scaling feature. Okay. If we go with above concepts, auto scaling feature not available. Understand my point? If I want to increase my pods to 10, will it happen automatically? Or I need to execute a command scale 10 replicas?
Manually.
In above concept auto scaling feature not available. Manually, we need to scale the pods. Manually, we need to scale our pods. And there is no option. To roll back our pods creation. To overcome these problems, we have deployment topic. We have deployment concept. Understand? When
Yes,
we
sir.
have replication controller, replication set, and a daemon set, still why we are going for deployment concept in the Kubernetes? The reason here you can specify replica count as 5. 5 replicas will be created, but a huge traffic is coming. 5 pods are not sufficient. I want 10 pods. Is it going to create the 10 pods automatically? A replica count is a fixed number.
Fixed number it is here.
Replica count is a fixed number.
Fixed
If you
number
want,
here.
if you want the pods to run 5 pods, always it will run only
5 pods.
5 pods. Out of the 5, if one pod got deleted, it will create only 1 pod.
Yes.
If 2 pods deleted, it will create
create
only
2
2
pods.
pods. If
Yeah.
5 pods deleted, it will create only 5
5
pods.
pods only.
But I want to run the 10 pods because more traffic is coming.
Yes.
Do we have that auto scaling feature when you go for replication controller or replication set or a daemon set?
No, we don't have.
No. Replication controller, replication set, both are same. That just the difference is a selector.
Yes.
Okay. When you go for a daemon set, do we have a scaling concept in the daemon set?
No.
No. Why there is no scaling concept in the daemon set? Number of nodes are equal to number of pods. If you have 10 nodes, only 10 pods will run. Now, if you go for replication controller, you can scale it, but scaling is a manual process. But when we discussed about advantages of the Kubernetes, did we discuss that there is auto scaling facility available in the Kubernetes?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
That's
Auto
what we are.
scaling facility.
That's what we are using Kubernetes. Otherwise, we can use Docker also.
That's the point. When you go for a Docker swarm, you can scale up manually.
Yeah.
But what is the main power of going for Kubernetes?
Auto scaling.
Auto scaling. My containers should be scaled. My containers should be increased. My containers should be decreased. Depends upon the traffic. Based on the metrics, my containers should be increased or my containers should be decreased. I want that auto scaling facility. I want that auto scaling feature. Which concept is providing that auto scaling feature for our application now?
Deployment.
Deployment concept.
Deployment concept. Okay, so why we need to go for deployment? Deployment is used to tell Kubernetes how to create or modify instances of the pods. By using deployment, we can roll out and roll back our application deployments if required. If required, we can achieve auto scaling. We can achieve auto scaling by using deployment. Understood?
Yes.
We can auto scale our pods by using deployment. Okay, now when we go for deployment, guys, the most important interview question, deployment strategy. Did anybody face this question in the interview? What is your application deployment strategy? How your application is deployed to production? What is the deployment strategy of your application? Anybody faced any of this question in the interview?
Is it a blue and green deployment?
Exactly.
Oh, is it blue and green?
It's
Okay.
a very common question. Very common question.
In AWS also they will ask same blue and green.
Right. So that's where now we came to the most important interview question. What is your project deployment strategy? Okay, Kubernetes will support for multiple deployment strategies. One is recreate. Another one is rolling update. Another one is rolling update. Third one is canal deployment, or one more is there. And next, blue green. Recreate deployment, rolling update, blue green deployment. Basically, blue green is not a strategy. Blue green is the approach. In the Kubernetes, there is no concept called blue green. Blue green is just a approach that we are going to follow to deploy our application to the production. Kubernetes blue green is, there is no relation between the Kubernetes and blue green. Blue green is not a strategy. Blue green is just a approach to deploy the application to the production. What is the first strategy that Kubernetes is supporting? Recreate strategy. What is the next one? Rolling update. Blue green is not a strategy. Blue green is just one approach to deploy the application to the production. Guys, did you get a message from SBI anytime? Due to maintenance, application will not be available from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. tomorrow.
Okay.
Did you get that message?
Yes, and
Yes, most of the
yes,
time.
yes.
Yes, that means those people are following recreate approach. Recreate means completely your application will be stopped, then only code will be deployed to production. Once the code is deployed to production, then they will up the application. That is recreate deployment strategy.
It's a traditional approach.
Traditional approach, legacy approach, old approach, outdated approach.
Oh, old approach. Okay.
Okay, guys, recreate. What is the meaning of recreate? Now you can see Kubernetes deployment strategy. So a lot of interesting topics are coming, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Kubernetes deployment strategies. Go to official documentation of Kubernetes. Yeah, deployments. A deployment provides a declarative updates to pods and replicas. Use cases, deployment strategies are available. Let's come down. Updating a deployment. There will be a concept. Rolling back a deployment. That means if you don't want, you can roll back your deployment. Services, load balancing, networking. Where is that? Deployment strategy. Scaling the deployment. Proportional scaling. Deployment status. Where is this? Deployment strategies in Kubernetes. Yeah, there are deployment strategies like recreate strategy, recreate, rolling update, recreate, I came to same. Create a deployment, roll out a replica set, creating the deployment. Deployment strategy, I think I'm not able to see this in the documentation. Yeah, fine guys, I will check this where they mentioned it in the documentation. I'm not able to get it here. So here deployment strategies are available like recreate, rolling update. Blue green is not a strategy, blue green is a approach. So in the tomorrow session, I'm going to tell you how to create this deployment by using Kubernetes and what are the strategies available for the deployment, which strategies we are going to follow in my project, which strategy we are following, that I will tell you in the tomorrow session. Okay. So what is the tomorrow's topic?
Deployment strategy.
How to work with the deployment, how to create a deployment in the Kubernetes, and what are the strategies available, how to work with those strategies. Good.
Sir, can you show us the Amazon we are getting
Sorry?
charged? Amazon website.
Yeah, right, right. Guys, if you go to AWS here, can you see AWS? Can you see AWS console?
Yes, sir.
Here, can you see a question mark button?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right.
This
Yeah.
is support center. So click on it, go to support center. In the support center, you need to create a case, create case.
Yeah.
Currently my cases are not open. So you can click on create case option, go to account billing,
Okay.
select a service called billing, then category, consolidated billing. You can select any category, consolidated billing. Now additional information, subject, please waive off my billing. Please waive off my billing. Hi team, greetings for the day. I'm learning AWS. I'm learning AWS by exploring AWS services. Unfortunately, bill got generated. Could you please? You can write whatever you want.
लेकिन
Could you
अब
please
तुमको
waive
पता
off?
चला होगा कि अशोक आईटी वाले लोग ऐसे लिखते हैं.
Sir, hello.
Yeah.
I did the same, sir, but no, still ticket pending.
Pending, huh? So
Yeah,
they will
sir.
look into that. Now, write this, click on solve now or contact us. Click on next. Yeah, if you want, you can, if you select a phone option, they will call you, they will call to your mobile. You can explain them what is the issue. If you want with the web, you can just set it. If you want to chat, immediately chat option will open for you. Click on submit.
Sir, how many times you can use this?
I'm using every month.
This every month we can waive off our billing.
Right.
Sir, company bill also you can waive off.
Company bill, nahi man.
Actually, I am using my company account, sir. They got $400.
Sir, sir,
Not company bills. Let me
Hello?
check my billing dashboard. Kitna ho gaya?
Sir, I'm paying last 2 years, sir. Not more than 2 years.
I got $6.
Oh, you are lucky boy, sir.
Maybe this month I will get more because in this month I used Kubernetes cluster, right?
Yes.
Yeah, this month I may get more bill. Anyhow, we know the technique how to waive off
Sir,
our bill.
Sir,
Yeah.
Route 53 comes under this waive off.
Yeah, no.
No, Route 53 will not come.
Okay, sir.
Your RDS, your T2 micro, sorry, T2 medium instances, those things, S3 buckets.
Elastic.
Yeah.
Sir, how to check our account duration?
When you create your account.
Yeah, that one. I forgot that one. Is it 1 year completed and I'm getting doubt?
No, I am
What
not
happens? You have
sure.
to keep only 1 year only allowed?
Then we can create another account.
I have
No,
already
is
four
it
account.
only?
You
Says
can
the line.
close account option is available if you want to close it. If you suppose if the more bill got generated, you can close your account, man. No problem. You can create another account. It's just 20 minutes it will take.
My just
But-
my account got terminated due to that pending. billing.
Yeah, if you don't pay the bill after multiple reminders, then
paisa
AWS
nahi
will
bhara.
automatically
But I-
terminate.
But
your
I-
they're
account.
but I just
charging our
recently
credit
made
card,
a-
right, sir?
No,
No, guys, AWS people will not deduct the money. That is one of the beautiful thing. If you go for Azure or GCP,
they will
every
deduct.
month bill will be deducted automatically.
But we have our credit card with them, right, sir? From
No.
there they are
Still,
taking
they
the
don't.
money.
Still, they don't do that.
But
But for
RBI
me,
has
they are
never-
charging.
They will just terminate our account.
RBI changed rules, sir, from June,
yes,
from
yes,
July 1st.
they cannot
onwards.
deduct automatically.
Yeah.
Yeah, but currently in the Azure or GCP, you no need to pay. They will deduct automatically.
Oh, then we will use on AWS, no problem.
Let's stop my instances. Fine, guys.
Ashok,
Good.
one thing, Ashok,
Yes, sir.
hello?
Tell me.
Yeah, one simple question. Actually, we have made a lot of configuration and installation while setting up our Kubernetes cluster, and the setup we have set up at initial, right? We have to do a lot of configuration. So मेरा question ये है कि EKS सीखने के बाद कुछ relief मिलेगा configuration से या नहीं?
मिलेगा भाई मिले, but ये manifest तो लिखना ही पड़ेगा. Configuration is a one-time step, right? Installation is one-time setup. But this manifest files, you have to write it even if you go for EKS also.
Okay. So the EKS will just provide the
Cluster
predefined
they will
Kubernetes
instead of
setup,
you
right?
are setting
Okay.
up the cluster, whatever the 10-20 commands we executed ना, वो नहीं execute करना पड़ेगा. But the manifest तो सीखना ही पड़ेगा. No.
Yeah, manifest is okay. That's fine.
Yeah,
That
but
we
most of the
understand.
trainers outside will teach Kubernetes with Minikube.
Yeah. That is of no use, right? Yes. Thanks, Ashok.
Sir, please update.
Thank you, sir.
Config files, sir. So while creating.
Manifest files, I have updated them already. I have
Oh.
given. I will do one thing. I will keep these config files in my GitHub and I will share the repo. How I gave for Ansible, na? Similarly, I will give these config files in the GitHub repository.
Thank you, sir.
Fine,
The
guys.
container creating status is showing while creating the pods, while running the command.
Yeah, sure, sir. So shall I check it tomorrow? It's already late, 11:10.
Yes.
Okay, no issue.
Sir, when is your new batch coming up? One of my friend wants to join.
For DevOps, huh?
Yeah, but he is fresher, sir, so he needs Linux also.
Oh, you want DevOps with AWS Linux? Okay, my next
Yeah.
batch may come next month, sir. This month, no schedule.
Okay.
Another trainer batch started morning at 7 a.m. You can suggest to that batch.
Okay, sir. For you, it would be 1 month, sir.
Yeah, it will take another next month. It will start the next month. Actually, I have new Java real-time project batch at 8:30. Our batch is going to complete by 24th. 25th, I have another batch at 8:30. Java real-time project batch is going to start.
Okay. So, sir, DevOps will not be there in 8:30 then, right?
Now this 8:30 DevOps will not come. Another next 3 months, no DevOps at 8:30 p.m. DevOps will come in the morning in the next slot.
Morning, what time, sir? The next batch?
DevOps will come at 8 o'clock. AWS is currently going on. AWS will complete in another 20 days. DevOps will come in the August month, the first week or second week. It will come at 8 o'clock.
But sir, Linux will not be there now.
Linux will be there. Linux will be there.
So you are starting from AWS, correct? Not
AWS
DevOps,
already started. AWS running. DevOps will start. Linux plus DevOps will start. In the August second week.
Means your course will start with the AWS and
this time I'm changing the plan for the DevOps because of AWS. I have started explaining first. Our course took almost 5 months. Now I'm going to change the course plan. Now I will explain Linux, then DevOps. After that, AWS I will explain for the new batches.
do you think having the AWS knowledge will be better compared to the because you need to have Linux and AWS, right? Yeah.
One question I have. So when we are teaching this DevOps tools and all, we are just using EC2 service only, right?
That's
But
right.
it is having that knowledge helps us to connect more.
Yeah, then I
And
will
without
explain
the
just
knowledge,
one session I will take on
EC2.
AWS EC2 with security group protocols, how to launch a virtual machine, how to connect it. Then I will continue with the DevOps tools because
That's
Oh,
good.
usually
Yeah.
what do you cover in the AWS? Usually what do you cover in the AWS? If it's not too much, then we can talk later. Just
Yeah, all the
Okay.
service, almost 15 plus services we are covering. Because of AWS only, it is taking
Oh.
lot of time.
Okay.
I took for I think for our batch, it took almost 2 months for AWS. Because of that only
More
our
than that.
time got more than that it took.
Now, I didn't join, sir. That's the
months.
reason.
So
I
3 months,
wanted
3
to, but-
months.
Yeah, for Linux and AWS, it took almost 3 months.
But sir,
And-
it actually
Alright.
created our base, sir. Now we can give interviews and all.
I think
we are confident.
that's the reason you're speeding up more now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
we could have speed up earlier actually.
yeah, right. Now I am taking daily 2 hours session. That is one of the reason.
Yes, sir.
I think from
Hello.
last 20 to 30 days, last 1 month onwards, more than 1.5 hour, 2 hour sessions we are having.
Yes, sir.
And this batch is lucky. They got luxury of AWS
Right,
sessions.
right.
Right.
Kubernetes is important, I think.
Yes, sir. Right. I think Kubernetes, we are going with a very low pace. I think you are able to connect to the dots.
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Hello. Sir, I had one thing to ask.
Yeah,
You
please.
can ask tomorrow, man. You can sleep now. Okay. Okay.
Sir,
Right.
but in new batches also AWS will be there, right?
AWS will be there, but at the end it will be there.
Okay. Syllabus will be same, na, sir?
Same syllabus.
Okay. So I'll tell them for 8 o'clock.
Yeah, right.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fine, guys. Thank you. Good night. So please practice these things before coming to tomorrow. Otherwise, tomorrow will be a nightmare for you.
Okay. Thank you.